Hello friends and welcome. Today we're going to do a guide on Jakiro. I think he's a really good support right now, and if you learn how to play him, he'll be a very stable pick for pretty much any game and offer a lot, no matter what wacky draft your teammates have picked. Here's the general game plan for Jakiro. I think he's better as a position 5, but if you want to play him as position 4, it's going to be very similar. I'm going to talk through many of these points as we go through the gameplay examples later, so rather than repeating myself, it was just adding video length. I'm going to cut it. Here you go. Pause if you want to read this or refer back to it later, screenshot it, whatever. Here it is. Let us move on. Let's go over this real quick. The idea is that you take a combination of Q and E to win your lane, and once you are going to get active, you start maxing Ice Path. In pubs, I actually think it can be safer to do a build like this, 1-point Ice Path, max Dual Breath first, because of your farm speed, and this will allow you to push or defend towers on your own, which happens in a lot of pubs. So if you want to do that, I think that's fine. Max Ice Path, Icebreaker after that. But if you do want to try to like follow the high-level meta, there's a lot of fighting going on, then max Ice Path first. After that, again, I think Dual Breath is the safer way to go, but some people do like the Liquid Fire, Liquid Frost. Just make sure you can actually apply the ability. Like if it's really hard for you to enter fights and hit it with your short attack range, that's not going to be very good. If you are maxing Dual Breath first, you can take the 11 talent or the 10 talent at level 11. If you're maxing Liquid Fire first, before the Dual Breath, then I would take it right at level 10, because my recommendation is to take this attack range talent, even if you're maxing Dual Breath. This will make it easier to apply Liquid Fire and Liquid Frost, but it will also help a lot when it comes to de-warding, killing couriers, and it just makes your life a lot easier, and it can be really critical in a team fight to be able to take out enemy vision. So this is just generally better in my opinion, but if it is a really good Dual Breath game for whatever reason, I think you could go this left talent. I don't think it's that bad. Like, it's not massively one-sided. For 15, I actually see a lot of people take this left talent, but I don't really like it. I don't think 60 damage is all that much on Ice Path. It is just the one instance, the initial, not like doubled up value, in which case I might be more open to it. If it's not a game where you can apply Liquid Fire easily, then that's fine. But if you can, 50 extra attack slow combined with the base 60, it's like a moon shard of attack slow, which I think is pretty good. It works on towers, it works on Roshan, creeps, enemy heroes, and it's a 4-second cooldown once it's maxed out. So you can just apply it to a bunch of stuff, and I think that's better in my opinion, but feel free. Again, I see more people take this. At level 20, this has more utility. I think it's the better one, but if you are building Aghanims first and you're doing a more damage-oriented build, I think you can argue for this one. I mentioned in the overview for the 25, I do think this is really good late game scaling, but if the enemy team is really reliant on blink initiations, or you have to defend the base on your own in a very safe manner, this makes the cast range crazy. You can be so far back, so if you even think, I think the Enigma's over there, I'm just going to Dual Breath. Who cares? Just do it. It's free essentially at that point of the game, and if you happen to cancel his blink, for 3 seconds, it could be huge. Force him to like BKB early to dispel it and then blink in 3 seconds later. So there's a lot of value to that in those types of fights. But if it's not that important and you are getting in the fights, you are auto attacking a lot with the Liquid Fire, the Liquid Frost, then I think this will do more damage. This is a very safe starting build for your items. The Magic Stick will go a long way to make sure you have enough mana to keep casting your spells. If you think you're going to be right-clicking a lot, for example, they have a lot of dispels, and so Dual Breath is not going to be that good, and you're going to be putting more points into Liquid Fire, Liquid Frost, and then just auto-attacking a lot. Some people will replace it with a Circlet, maybe even a Fairy Fire, and just auto-attack a lot. I think that's fine. It's a little bit up to you guys. But just don't immediately jump from this to this. Make sure you are buying enough mangoes through the laning stage, tangos, salves, clarities. Like I said in the overview, you have to have enough regen or you will just drop off a cliff in terms of usefulness. Dual Breath is awful when it comes to damage to mana conversion. You don't want to just throw this out and then back away. This is the most common mistake I see from Jakiro players. It is, look at that. It's pitiful. It's pitiful how much damage you get out of that. If I just auto-attacked him once, it's pretty much the same. So don't use Dual Breath for damage. You want to use the move slow and attack slow in combination with this so that when you guys are fighting, you Dual Breath, and now he's attacking slower, and if he tries to run away, he's slowed. So as you chase, you can get more auto attacks off. Use Q to make your right-click trades better. And when you then combine that with Liquid Fire, either Liquid Fire's free harass, because you just drop it on someone, get 100 damage, you use it, and then you trade, and it's got another 30 attack slow on that with Dual Breath, so you win that trade, or you use it with Liquid Frost, which will then proc all the instances from your attacks and Dual Breath, and that way you just win trades at level 2. So you want to get level 2 as fast as possible, stay in the lane, hit level 2, and as long as you have the mana and the cooldowns available and enough health to trade and chase people, you pretty much always win those micro fights. But as soon as you don't have enough mana to use Dual Breath and combo it with these, you are a slow hero with low attack range, and people will just whittle you down, and you'll like slowly walk up to them, they'll walk away. As you retreat, they'll come back and hit you again. It is miserable. So you must buy enough regen through the laning stage so that you can use this combo and win the trades. Do that enough until you have a big enough lead in the lane, and then you can go for the bigger items. So make sure you're covering your bases, and then make your way towards the arcane boots, the wand. You don't have to get a windlace, but it does build into several items he likes, so it's nice. From there, whatever your team needs. So a lot of times you have mana issues. Hopefully the neutral items will help you in that. That's my recommendation. Take like mana draft or the mana enchantment, stuff like that. If not, your first item being like Solar Crest or Force Staff, because it will give you more mana pool, a little bit of mana regen on some of these. That helps a lot. Your spells are pretty expensive, but also kind of low cooldown, so you have very intensive mana need when a fight breaks out. So if those can be some of your first items, that's great. If not, like sometimes it's a Glimmer Cape first item, that's fair. You're just gonna have to be more careful with your spell usage to make sure you have enough mana. If you are completely free and you can be a little greedy, then Yules gives you a lot, pretty much everything you want. Mana, movement speed because you're slow, and a self setup. You can Yules the target and then Ice Path below them, and they'll stun as soon as they drop. They can BKB out of that, warning on that, but you force BKB or you got a stun on a elusive target. So it's a pretty good combo. Ags, if you want to go greedy. Shard is good for applying both the Liquid Fire and the Liquid Frost at the same time. Toggle them to auto cast to make your life easier, and they'll proc each other, or like Liquid Fire will proc Liquid Frost, which is just free easy damage in the late game with the attack talent. Survivability with the Ghost Scepter. If you need to make sure you're always there for the follow-up, Force Staff or Blink Dagger, maybe even the Aether Lens to make sure you can land your AoE spells from afar. Put yourself in the best position to like line up the entire team in one cast. Blink Dagger can be really good. Hex for the late game. Like whatever else you think might be good. A Refresher in the ultra late game, fine, go for it. All right, let's do some gameplay examples of Jakiro. This is from the recent PGL finals. So Insanity's playing Jakiro. Bounty rune fights, fantastic. In the pubs, if they don't smoke up, that's okay. But just like stand around a bounty rune, save the skill point. Even if you think you're going to do Liquid Fire, Dual Breath is really good at certain bounty rune fights when people all group up. So they see them coming in from the ward. Look where Insania is standing. If he was where Nisha is, he's going to Dual Breath this way. He's going to hit 33, but everyone behind is not going to be affected. So position yourself in a way that your spells hit these choke points where people are going to funnel in, and that allows him to land, I believe, 3, maybe even 4 people with the Dual Breath there. They get the first kill for it. I believe Mickey dies here. Yeah, but they get Duraccio instead. So it ends up being a 2-for-1, and a lot of that is off the strength of Dual Breath being really good at the beginning of the game. Does not immediately buy like boots, does buy enough regen, the Tango, the Salve. Okay, here Insania is level 2. Clockwork is a very strong support himself. But Jakiro, as long as he is careful with the positioning, will not die to Clockwork's Battery Assault and Power Cogs combo. And in fact, you can even farm Power Cogs because you attack twice with Double Trouble. But here's the combination on like any hero. Use Dual Breath first and then Liquid Frost, because Dual Breath lasts for 5 seconds, and then you apply the Liquid Frost, which only lasts for 4 seconds. So this is how you maximize the value from Liquid Frost. And then there's 10 instances of damage from Dual Breath, so you proc this bonus damage, 12 bonus damage 10 times. That leads to 120 bonus damage, along with the 10 impact damage. That's why once you can use both spells, Liquid Fire is 100 damage, which is great as just a one-off. If you don't want to commit Dual Breath, if you can't auto-attack more, Liquid Fire is just free damage, great. But anytime you commit Dual Breath, you want to use Liquid Frost, and then try to attack as much as you can, because we're already at 120 bonus damage, but every time you auto-attack, you get 2 more instances, 24 more bonus damage, along with your attack damage, and so it's just even better. So there we go, Insania's just going to like attack more. This is why position 5 Jakiro works better, because it's easier to do this stuff from the safety of your own tower, and they walk up and then you get to chase them away. when you're position 4 and they can just back under the tower, it's very difficult to chase, and they're taking less damage because they have the armor, the extra regen, and it doesn't work as well. Position 5 Jakiro can play the lane, can run you down, and then do pulls very safely. In this little skirmish coming up here, I want to point something out. I think this was a misclick. I can't verify, no flame whatsoever intended, you know, but like this will happen to a lot of you. It happens to me all the time. Dual breath can be used on a target. And if you click on this Darkseer and Darkseer runs upwards, then Jakiro will turn and aim the dual breath at the Darkseer wherever he is. If you ground target though, then even as the heroes move, of course, you ignore them. You are aiming at the ground. So in the lane and throughout the game, as you try to aim your spells at certain heroes, be careful with dual breath. In this case, he ends up not hitting Soxa because the spell ends up going up a little bit on 33 instead of potentially hitting both. Now, it actually looks kind of close, which is maybe why he did intentionally aim at 33. It's like, I gotta hit this guy, and if I hit Soxa, great. If I don't, whatever. Whereas maybe he aimed at the middle and they both dodge and he ends up missing. Because dual breath is a cone. It is thinnest, closest to Jakiro, and wider at the end. And there's another reason why if you get a little too close, it becomes harder to land the spells, but it's unavoidable sometimes. So it'll be up to you guys to determine what is best in the game. Just be careful about clicking the heroes versus clicking the ground. But again, once he does it, he does the liquid frost, and then here you can see him like freely killing the clockwork cogs. And then you generally don't want to hit the creeps if you are freely harassing, but in a big fight like this, where we're all trying to kill each other, go ahead and hit the creeps, because the creeps will also be affected by the attack slow, and that means they'll do less damage throughout the fight, do less damage to you, and it does add up in the early game. So it can be a tactical choice to hit the creeps, but don't do it too much, especially if you're like perfectly at equilibrium and then you hit some creeps, now you shove in the lane. It's a little bit unavoidable on Jakiro because all your stuff is AoE, but just be careful of it. And if you do accidentally hit the creeps, you have to either commit to it, shove it all the way in to reset, or look to do a pull. When your team is doing stacks, don't be afraid to drop a dual breath, even the liquid fire on it. The damage isn't that strong in the early game, especially because a lot of these creeps often have some kind of like magic resistance aura, but the attack slow will mean your carry will take a lot less damage. And if you happen to steal some last hits, oops, oh well, it's really not that big of a deal. But I don't think we'll find an example of this, but if you happen to find the enemy stacks, absolutely just drop a macro pyre and steal. Like enemy ancients and a hard camp stack, like steal that. You can usually line up like 2 camps with a macro pyre because it's so long. So just like stand in one camp, macro pyre at the other, and then like stand in between. They'll like walk at you and you can farm both. It tends to be very worth it to do. Don't be worried about the like ultimate cooldown. Liquid fire does work on towers, not just the damage, but the attack slow as well. So it can make it easier to take the towers. Depending on how much information you see. So they just killed PA and he saw people on the map, so he's fine hitting the tower. If your team is doing it and you don't see anybody, then it's not really worth it, especially in the early game, like level 1 liquid fire. Don't worry about it. Late game, don't go throwing your life away trying to like put liquid fire on the tier 3 in a siege and then you get caught with your team. It's not worth it. If you can do it safely because you see the enemies scattered, that's okay. If you're pushing on your own, that's okay. But in a proper team siege, the enemy's contesting, you just stay in the back, watching it happen. You stay like in these tree lines as your carry's hitting this, and that way when everyone jumps on the carry, they jump them here, whatever, you land the easy ice path macro pyre, hit everyone who is attacking your heroes. Don't be caught with the Sven in the vacuum wall and the roll and everything. Like that's not gonna do your team any good. So it is good on towers, but don't grief yourself. Here's a game where Insania started with liquid fire instead of dual breath, and I just wanted to talk through that a little bit here. The damage is the same, and you see he just chucked it onto 33 for free. Doesn't have a mana cost to it. Dual breath is going to be better when everyone is fighting to the death, hitting each other, chasing each other. But if you look at the heroes in this game, Tiny doesn't really want to fight level 1. Jakiro's fine with it, but Tiny's like, I just want to last hit for now. When I get the spell combo, maybe I would, but this patch, people aren't really doing that anyways. Spectre could be another example of a hero like that. You know the type. The carry that's like, I just want a level 1 farm, level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 farm, right? Fine. I don't need to get you involved. The opponents, this is a Weaver. It would be great to be able to out-trade him, but he's probably just going to Shikuchi away. And at that point, the attack slow does nothing. Death Prophet, sure, we could slow her, but she just got Spirit Siphon, and she might actually end up winning that trade, so maybe I don't really want to do that. So this is a case where you don't want to be useless, hold Dual Breath, and just never use it. So in this case, you get Liquid Fire, and you just throw it off cooldown, get the 100 damage, maybe you poke a little bit, because it does have an attack slow to it, but if you don't, it's not a big deal. This is why it's so important to get level 2 as soon as you can, so when the enemies come mess with you in the jungle, they can't, because Dual Breath plus Liquid Frost is insane. Now, Weaver does manage to, you know, sneak out of here. It comes really close and Sandy almost kills him. In this case, he doesn't. But in many other cases, the position 4s are so used to being able to just walk over here, run over the weak position 5s, and now you just Dual Breath, Liquid Frost, and attack them. And it's going to be a ton of damage. You're going to get some kills that the enemies are not expecting, especially because if they're fighting you over here and they go, oh shit, I got to get out of here. It is so long to run out of here, unless they TP home, which many people don't, right? If they try to walk away, this is only 10 seconds. You're probably gonna get another round of spells, especially if you have a Blood Grenade or the carry connects, and that's how you can get a lot of easy kills, but you gotta be level 2 to do that. Here's another reason Jakiro is so good. He is tanky, very forgiving for new players, although the skill shots can be a little hard to land because they're so slow, but the Dual Breath hits both. The attacks, double attacks kill the bugs a little faster. Lives with like 14 health. Oh, 11 dropped down there. If the bug hit one more time, it would have killed him. So very sturdy hero, pretty forgiving, and can bait enemies because they think they can kill you. You're easy support, easy kills. Not the case for Jakiro. Note the items he just bought with the courier that was here. A lot of consumables to get through these tough lanes. Weaver, Death Prophet, very strong lane, a lot of harass, making sure he has enough health and mana to keep using these spells and win the trades. Tiny's a relatively strong carry, so this case it's fine, but in your pubs, you know the types, right? They picked Drow, they picked PA, very squishy to start, and they need someone sturdy like Jakiro to get them the space to become strong and then scale later into the game. If you end up winning the lane and you can get kills, don't blow all the spells right away. Because you have so many slows, you can usually chase heroes down outside of those like Weaver Shikuchi cases. So just run people down, and if they're far enough away from their tower, their only option is going to be to try to teleport out. So don't Ice Path right away to start fights off. Hit the slows. Even if you need to Ice Path, that makes it easier because now they're affected by movement slows. But as soon as they try to teleport away, you can then easily Ice Path and then finish up the kill. All right, I want to show off a couple things in this fight. So our Lifestealer does get killed here, but he's really close to dying. I just want to highlight Jakiro is strong enough to get kills with Macropyre, so don't be afraid to chase certain people for these kills. I should have Dual Breath here first rather than Macropyre. I was kind of thinking they might come through, so I wanted to block this path, but I could have Dual Breath and then landed the Macropyre more easily. Grimstroke, look how much damage he took just walking through my Macropyre, so some of the idea of the zoning was correct. Grimstroke practically dead just because of my Macropyre. I barely live here. My team's going to carry me for a little bit. And then you have really long range spells, so you don't have to back right away. Even if you get low, you can just hug the edge of the fight and just follow things up. So Spirit Breaker charges the puck, and then I have an easy time landing Ice Path. Nature's Prophet, don't want to get procced by Maelstrom, so he's kind of killing us. And then I thought we were done, but this kind of teleport coming in, just try to time it. It's not always clear how many people have teleported to a tower, but something you can do if you, for example, you know it's the very first teleport, so it's a regular cooldown, just kind of wait to the last second and then throw out the Ice Path. And you can err on the side of being early because the Ice Path just sits there. And as they teleport into it, they will be stunned. Some people will react fast, they'll cancel the teleport, but I mean, that's kind of good in its own way. Many people won't, especially if you time it towards the very end, and they'll just teleport straight into being stunned. For now, it's an early game fight, kind of whatever. But this can be really big in mid to late game fights when BKBs are a thing, and like the carry had been pushing bottom, he sees a fight breaking out top, he tries to TP in, goes right here to join the fight, and you see it coming, so you can Macropyre ahead of time, and then right at the last second, Ice Path, and then they have to BKB. Like, they have to have come BKB'd. Many people won't, and so they will just be stunned as soon as they come in, and maybe your team can kill them before they get anything off. That can be a really big play, so look for teleports as a way to set up your own Ice Path. This one's not the best, but I just want to showcase the Macropyre zoning the team again. This happens a lot in the mid lane, choke points, But all throughout the map, there are these type of choke points. So depending where you're positioned, just keep it in mind, look for the pathways. Miscellaneous tips to end the video off. Ice Path does give vision along the path, so you can use it to check cliffs, get easy D wards. Get in the habit of manually casting Liquid Frost and Liquid Fire. It does two things. One, it will not draw creep aggro, and two, the actual cast range is longer than your usual attack range. So if you set it to auto cast and then just attack people, you're going to draw aggro and it's going to be shorter. But if I manually cast from over here, I don't draw aggro. I can actually launch this from further. This is then even better if you end up with the attack range. Because yes, your attack range goes up, but so too then does the cast range of Liquid Frost, Liquid Fire, and that makes it easier to cast this without getting too close to the fight, and you can keep your distance. All of your abilities reach a little further than they look like they can based on the cast range, so keep that in mind if you're like chasing someone trying to stun them. You don't always have to get all the way there. Although I will say Ice Path is pretty slow, so it's easier to pull off with Dual Breath and like Macro Pyre. Ice Path in the cast animation, the target's probably running, so you do actually need to give yourself some room to cut them off, even with the extra cast range. That one's kind of tricky, but if you just play a lot, you'll get used to it. Macro Pyre has a 2-second linger duration, so as long as you just touch a target, they will be affected by 2 seconds, so you'll get 2 seconds worth of damage, but also 2 seconds worth of blink canceling, plus then the 3 seconds that they have to not take damage for to then get the blink back up. So when you see those initiators coming in, sometimes not even for the damage, just like poke them with a Macro Pyre and that's good enough. Or you see a low health target fleeing in the game, you just have to touch them with the Macro Pyre, and you'll do, in the early game, 200 damage, late game, 400 damage, and then however long they actually spend in the Macro Pyre can be a great way to pick up kills from someone retreating. I recommend you practice last hitting with this split damage. I don't know how to describe it until you just do it. It's just weird compared to having one instance of damage. So just give it a go. Practice denying and last hitting from like level 1 to 3. Get the hang of it. You don't want to miss all of those in the laning stage. And 2, practice Ice Breaker, the facet. It's not instant when you activate it, so you kind of have to like get a feel for where it is at the end and then activate it to properly chain stun with yourself. It's more important to chain stun if they have BKB, so err on the side of a little too early. In the early game, you can err on the side of a little too late if they don't have any kind of instant mobility like time lapse or something like that. In that case, you probably also have to err on the side of being early, but in general, it's really good to get this timing pretty close. So I would run through it, all the different levels, the stun durations, if you're going off the bar, if you're going off feeling, whatever, just practice it so you don't mess it up. If you plan on spamming Jakiro, a couple heroes I would recommend banning. 1, Rubik. I always ban Rubik versus Jakiro if I can, because if he steals your spells, and he's gonna get something, they're all amazing. He'll have longer cast range, faster cast speeds. It is just a better version of you, and if he takes Ice Path, that is like one of the best spells you could possibly steal in the entire game. So it is very tough to play into. You feel like you can't do anything. I would just take it out. Offlaners who have dispels or supports who have dispels, particularly popular ones are like Abaddon and Legion Commander in pubs. They're very annoying to lane against. If you do play against them, I recommend you go QEE because they usually will dispel the dual breath, but not the Liquid Fire, Liquid Frost, so then you can use that instead. Time Zone, Time Dilation, pretty meta right now, very annoying for Jakiro. Technically, your damage over time is good versus him in the lane, so if you're fine with that, feel free to leave him in. But in the actual team fights later on, those spells are so annoying for you because Liquid Fire and Liquid Frost are separate spells, so it's a big pain. So I like to take him out. Beyond that, anyone who's really fast and long attack range in the lane is pretty annoying to deal with. Someone like Pugna, for example. Anyone who is attack speed dependent is usually an easy matchup in the lane. Someone like Monkey King would not do very well because of the dual breath and Liquid Fire attack slows. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want some gameplay examples, go to the live tab on this YouTube channel. I've been streaming on YouTube and the VODs are there, so you can find him on the thumbnail, and then the videos are timestamped, so you can go to Jakiro Games and check out me playing there, just wrecking people, definitely. Every single one, for sure. It'll be there. Otherwise, if you want this guide, it's in the description. Subscribe, it'll pop up in the game like that. That's it. Let me know if you got any questions. Bye.